This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat. So we've got quite the chapter here today, boys, because the day of reckoning is closer than ever. And if you're thinking like, Zhoniin, what are you talking about? You sound insane. That's understandable, but I'm talking about the Metal Knight, Drive Knight stuff. Who's evil? Who's not? Who is going to be revealed to be one of the biggest antagonists in the series and the leader of the organization? Well, we're getting closer to that than ever, like I said, because we're getting way more insight into Metal Knight than we've ever had. And we might be getting an answer to a question that we've had for a very long time here, or at least partly. But before we get into that, we have to talk about Sonic, because this chapter opens up with him. And of course, you know, as we've been going through these handful of chapters for the last year or so, we're continuing the major protagonists of the series going against the horde of organization robots here that have been invading multiple cities. And we've been seeing, like I said, various characters going against them, and we're coming to Sonic going against them in this chapter, and we're seeing Sonic's new arsenal that he has. I think the last time we saw Sonic was when he was going against the Neo leader A, and then after that he just kind of went back into, I don't know, doing whatever Sonic does when he's off panel. Training, I guess. But we're seeing that he has a lightning wrapped, dragon guided, widespread exploding giant shuriken, and that it's pretty powerful. But he also has the legendary Demon Blade Rust Bucket, which Saitama took from quote-unquote that man. Now, in case you forgot, Saitama easily defeated the leader of the Ninja Village, like just knocked him into the ground and then just took like his arsenal of weapons that he had, and Sonic and Flashy Flash were able to salvage some of those. This is actually about to happen in the manga's continuity. I mean, probably won't play out the same exact way, you know, since Blast is there, but it more or less is probably going to end with him getting just completely destroyed. And then I guess Flashy Flash and Sonic are going to get those weapons again. But anyway, this is one of the weapons, and Sonic is using it against a machine god who he's encountering here. A machine god who is dragon level by the name of Shunpo, or Shunpu. And if you're familiar with Bleach, then you definitely recognize that term Shunpo, which I think translates to Flash Steps, which is interesting because, you know, Flashy Flash and ninjas and stuff. And also, this machine god has like heels, you know, like high heels, which Flashy Flash also has, and I guess other ninjas do too. So it's very possible that this was like a ninja that was reconfigured to make a machine god. Like, I think that might be a recurring theme with the last couple that we've seen. Like, maybe this is made from the corpse of Hellfire or Gale, because I'm pretty sure the webcomic, they are dead for sure. But anyway, apparently he's the fastest of the machine gods, and him and Sonic have this, you know, pretty great fight. But it ultimately ends with Sonic revealing that he has the 13 Shadows funeral, which is 3 more than his previous Best of the 10 Shadows funeral, or burial, however you want to translate it. And Sonic just easily takes care of this guy, who, let us not forget, is a freaking dragon. And Sonic's like, I've become too strong. So yeah, Sonic is easily dragon level at this point, which we assumed so, you know, given how he was able to contend against Flashy Flash back in the Ninja Village arc. But now it's like confirmed, like, yeah, he can take down dragons. So he's ridiculous, and I'm pretty sure the manga continuity will follow suit for sure. Now we're coming to the super spicy stuff, because Child Emperor, who we saw in the previous chapter, flying over the city, communicating with his cram school team, has somehow located where Metal Knight is. Like, Metal Knight in the flesh, Dr. Bufoy. I mean, he knew, you know, where he was, but I guess at the same time he kind of didn't, because as soon as he comes in there, Metal Knight's like, you did well finding this place. Now, before I go further, let us also keep in mind that Genos is still actively looking for Metal Knight, and Genos has been gaslighted by Drive Knight into thinking that Metal Knight is responsible for the Mad Cyborg and killing Genos' family and the whole onslaught with all the robot stuff. So Genos is like insane right now, and I'm pretty sure it will eventually converge with him finding Metal Knight and Child Emperor, you know, but I digress. So anyway, Child Emperor is confronting Metal Knight here because obviously he's been suspicious of him. He thinks that Metal Knight is responsible for all of the robots on the rampage invading the cities, as well as the suits that the Neo heroes wear, and rightfully so because all of this technology comes from Metal Knight, as we knew. And Child Emperor is just ready to attack Metal Knight here because, as he says, assuming you're the mastermind behind all this, can I attack you? And Metal Knight is just cool, calm, and collected here because he already knows everything. You know, like I've been trying to tell you guys, he's been like 3 steps ahead of everyone, even the readers. And it eventually comes to the point of where he's like the man you respected and studied under. As a disciple, Dr. Bafoy is the mastermind. Surely that's not the case. Didn't you come here to confirm that it's not true? And then Child Emperor basically confirms that he and Metal Knight did have plans to create a robot army like the one that we see invading the cities. However, you know, their original purpose was to protect the citizens, not to just kill them all indiscriminately, because Child Emperor is skeptical of the Hero Association system. You know, as it says here, he didn't want there to be a system where pro-heroes have to bear the full authority of a large-scale military force, because as we've seen, it is a flawed system, especially with like C through A class. They're essentially just fodder. It ultimately comes down to the S class that really have to make a difference, especially as time goes on and monsters get more powerful, as we've seen as well. So this was a plan that they had constructed, or at least just theorized at some point. And Metal Knight's like, well, that ended up being your aim in the end, didn't it, Isamu, which is Child Emperor's real name? To be an individual who owns a large-scale military force? You're preparing, aren't you? And without revealing it to anyone. And that triggers Child Emperor because it seemingly is the truth. Like, this is what Child Emperor wanted. Not for nefarious purposes, of course, but just to be the one who owns that military force. So, you know, it's kind of like a gray moral area, if you will. It is very authoritarian, but his heart's in the right place. Just like what I've been saying about Metal Knight this whole time. They are very similar. Almost 2 sides of the same coin, the same way that King and Saitama are. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box where you'll get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive, limited edition, and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time, like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese sake Kit Kats, ramen, and many more. It also comes with this awesome booklet that gives you information on all of the snacks in the box, as well as information about Japan and its culture. This month's box is New Year's Snackin' Party. Celebrate the New Year with Tokyo Treat's New Year's Snackin' Party box. It's filled with snacks inspired by Japan's Oshogatsu, or New Year's holiday, such as lucky red and white Kit Kat, agemochi, or deep fried mochi snacks, itomen yamaimo soba, and many more. So I had to try these agemochi bites, which are deep fried mochi. They have an incredibly crunchy texture to it, which I personally love, as well as a slightly sweetened soy sauce flavor that really balances the mochi. Next, I tried the Nagoya donuts, and I love these so much. It's like biting into a pillow, and the mildly sweet red bean paste inside is just perfect. Then I had to try the CC lemon, which is apparently packed with 12 lemons worth of vitamin C. This is just like a perfect lemon soda. I don't know how else to say it. You need to try it for yourself. And of course, we always have to try the Kit Kats that we get every month with Tokyo Treat. And this month, it's the lucky red and white Kit Kat. And this has to be like the final boss of Kit Kats. It's super sweet white chocolate and classic milk chocolate. And yeah, just as you thought, they create a perfect blend of irresistible flavor. So guys, if you're looking for the best way to start the new year for you or a loved one, get yourself a Tokyo Treat box. And of course, you can get that through the link in my description, but I'll also sweeten the deal because if you use code Zhoniin, you're gonna get $5 off of your first box. Thanks, guys. Then Child Emperor says the robots running amok are emitting identification signals specific to Bafoy-made weapons. And then Bafoy, the Chad that he is like, so what? And then Child Emperor says it means the culprit is not you, because you're not the type of person to include such a weakness, which is, you know, very true. We've been saying this from the beginning. This is way too sloppy and stupid of a plan to be Metal Knight's, as we've seen that he is very calculated from the beginning, very pragmatic, and very reluctant to use resources. So is this straight up confirming that Metal Knight is not the bad guy here. He has not orchestrated this plan. He is not trying to take over the world. Everything that Drive Knight has told Genos and the audience is a lie. Is that all confirming that? Well, not exactly. We're not quite there. Because, like I said in the beginning of the video, the Day of Reckoning is closer than it ever has been, but we're not quite there yet. However, if you're asking me, I'm going to say, yeah, obviously, this is one telling us that Metal Knight is not the bad guy here. But I'm still going to be patient until, the table is completely flipped and everything is revealed, because that still has yet to come. But I'll get more into that. But going further, Child Emperor says, meaning this technology was plagiarized by someone else. Someone is misusing Dr. Bafoy's weapon development data. And if you've been following my coverage of the webcomic and just One Punch Man in general with this Mad Cyborg, Metal Knight, Drive Knight stuff, I've been saying this for the longest time. The organization was able to salvage Dr. Bafoy's data and, as they say, plagiarize it to make it look like Metal Knight is the culprit here, because their whole thing is like gaslighting and manipulating. Now, I think the point of origin for all of that is when they salvaged the robots that Saitama destroyed, after the Garo fight, the defense robots at the Hero Association. Like, it's super, super subtle in the webcomic because we only see the brain robot in the footage that Bafoy is reviewing of the security cameras of that incident. In the manga, it's like straight up spoon-fed to us. Like, destroyed Metal Knight drone that, went down into the Monster Association with Elder Centipede that was ultimately destroyed by Orochi. Obviously, the data was siphoned there from G5. But like I said, webcomic, way more subtle. Because I'm thinking that has to be the origin point here. But anyway, Child Emperor is ultimately like, why did you let this happen? Or were you going to let it happen so you can trace the leak? And that makes sense. Metal Knight allowing this to play out so he can trace to where this is coming from, who siphoned his data and caused all of this, which I think he's probably 70% sure of already who did it. But this angers Child Emperor because he's like, when are you going to make a move? Like, what are you waiting for? And I guess he's just waiting for until he has all of the information. He doesn't want to make an impromptu move without knowing everything yet, which makes sense. That lines up with his stern, pragmatic mind. But Bafoy's like, from my point of view, that's wishful thinking mixed with a lot of personal feelings. And he's like, there's no need for you to continue talking. And this just angers Child Emperor. And he winds up biting on his lollipop thing here. And he's like, are you underestimating me? And we're going to find out what exactly is going on with this lollipop. But he's like, hypothesis number 3. I don't want to think this, but, since you're an S-class hero, have you abandoned your humanity? And of course, this goes back to the whole thing about humans becoming monsters, abandoning your humanity and all that stuff. And I'm sure he's relating this to Bafoy, but not in the sense of monsters. But this is like a double entendre from 1, which he usually does. And I love the way that he writes that as well. But Child Emperor reveals that they were developing like this AI program, which is essentially the same or a replica of the AI program used in the Machine Gods that we've seen. But Child Emperor says that its level was too high and it was prone to becoming uncontrollable and it would eventually lead to a rampage. Now that's pretty interesting, right? Rampage obviously goes back to the Mad Cyborg, because I think another translation for that is like the rampaging cyborg. And they ultimately concluded that it's too dangerous of a creation and can't be conveniently constructed by even the most brilliant human minds. So they would have to basically computerize a person in order to control the AI. So they would augment their brain function with machine functionality in order to surpass the AI. Therefore, their computational power in their brain would increase, but their sensibility would decrease. And if their instinctual behaviors were to vanish, there is the danger of losing your sense of values and ethics. So that's why he thinks that Bafoy has lost his humanity, because he thinks that Bafoy has performed this on himself. However, he hasn't. Now, in my opinion, I think this is the reveal of what Drive Knight truly is. Because like I've said before, I think that Metal Knight inadvertently created Drive Knight. Now, it's possible that Drive Knight was like his son or another assistant, the way that Child Emperor was or something like that. But I think that Bafoy performed this computerization, which is funny because it lines up with monsterization and cyborgification. He performed this computerization on Drive Knight when he was a human, and something went wrong, and this led to him becoming Drive Knight, aka the Mad Cyborg, because this lines up exactly with how he acts, right? Prone to becoming uncontrollable, leading to a rampage, which, he did, destroying Genos' hometown, killing his family, as well as other things that we're not aware of yet. But also instinctual behaviors beginning to vanish, losing sense of value and ethics, abandoning humanity, becoming a monster in an alternate method. Now, there's also the ingredient of God in all of this, and I wonder if God intervened when Drive Knight became this computerization, or does all of Metal Knight's high tech derive from a cube, possibly? Maybe Metal Knight found a cube or something, and then he started running research experiments on it, and then he realized that he could use it as a power source or something, or some kind of, conduit for his technology. And that's what led to Drive Knight being made, possibly. Still not sure on that, but God is involved in this in some way, for sure. But anyway, we come to the end of the chapter where Child Emperor is just going completely unhinged here, and he eats like half of his lollipop here, still accusing Metal Knight of abandoning his humanity. And he's like, oh, is that why you're trying to reset the world to a new standard? And Metal Knight realizes that there's something in that candy that he ate. He's mixed it with something strong. Some kind of stimulating drug or a nanomachine. How childish. And then we see Child Emperor tweaking out in the final panel here. It's like, I'm going to get an answer, Dr. Pufoy, even if it's by force. I'm prepared to respond to any answer. So, yeah, it goes back to what I was saying before. Genos is going to show up. Not sure when, but this all might coincide with either a triple threat match or a double Talk No Jutsu by Metal Knight. He just reveals to both of them the truth, which would be incredible. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you like the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Dakota. Your girlfriend Rachel told me that you like my One Punch Man videos and your birthday's coming up. So I wanted to give you a quick shout out and say, happy birthday, buddy. I appreciate the support.